This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay.
Welcome to the City Council Ordinance Committee meeting of August 4th, 6 p.m. We have everybody in attendance. This meeting is being held in person. We do have one set of minutes, I believe, so let me just get the date on that, and then we can get a motion to bring those forward. And it looks like they were July 14th.
That's correct.
Okay, so I'd be happy to accept a motion to approve the minutes of July 14th.
So moved. Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so those are good. Let me just get us back to, here we are, public speak time. Anybody here to speak to anything that is not currently on our agenda? Okay, yeah. Just say your name and address for the record. You don't have to stand up. You can.
Okay, Bob Sass, 3 Windsor Circle in Easthampton. I'll be very short and sweet. For 25 years, the Bethlehem House has been providing the ministry they've been providing in this town. And I think if you peruse our website, any advertising we do, clearly there is absolutely no mention of medical. We do the article needs of a pregnant woman that's going to have a child, similar to the food needs that Easthampton Community Center. In fact, we work directly with them. So, from our perspective, we don't see a tremendous risk legally within the Bethlehem House, but I want to relate to you something. Are you familiar with where the Bethlehem House is?
Mm-hmm.
And it's, if you know the Sacred Heart, it's the old Sacred Heart Church, which is now a thrift store. The Bethlehem House is right behind it. Right adjacent is an old convent. And then there, if you kind of wind around, there's a school back there. And I was in a board meeting for a completely separate ministry on Tuesday night at the school, and I was driving out past the Bethlehem House and between the Angel's Attic, that road right there. And as soon as I made the corner, there's a car stopped, and you could see the people were taking pictures of the Bethlehem House. I mean, they're literally taking pictures. They scooted away, and I exited, got the license number, and reported it to the police. Not that it's against law to take pictures of anything, but if there are incidents, what really concerns me is we appear on all these websites in the state that are really against the crisis pregnancy centers and and we appear as if we're one of them. And you know, you're probably, if you read the news, they've hit the couple of centers in Worcester. They haven't hit in this area yet. They've hit a number of the centers in Boston. And now it appears, I don't think they're taking pictures because the Bethlehem House is a beautiful building. It appears now that we're kind of on the agenda. I just want you guys to realize the ramifications of what you're doing. You know, you're putting us right in the target. And there's no reason for it. I mean, how many of you have young children? I have a young grandson, and fortunately my son is of means and his wife are of means, so it wasn't really an issue. It is really, really expensive to buy all the things you need for a baby. When you're talking about cribs, bassinets, strollers, car seats, blah, blah, you know, we can just go through the list. And we provide for 18 months clothing for children, and it's all donated. And you know that you have a lot of people saying, you know what, it's time for us just to close it and be done with it. You know, if the town doesn't appreciate what we're doing, Because we're not only serving people from our parish, in fact, most of the people aren't from our parish. We're serving people throughout the community. We're also the poster child, and I hope you understand that, for these crisis pregnancy centers. And because what more would you want is to put the Bethlehem House up there, and you can log on to the website tonight and you'll see, I mean, we are very clear what we do, okay? And they're organizing a federal class action lawsuit. There's a lot of money in the Catholic community, and the money's flowing in. I don't think this city needs to try to defend themselves in that kind of situation. Because Pam, the woman that runs it, is 70 years old. Okay, she's in her 70s. I don't know exactly how old. She's been there for 25 years. Never, ever, ever, and correct me if I'm wrong, has there ever been a complaint from anybody? Okay? You know, this ordinance has put us right in the crosshairs. Right in the crosshairs. That any day, you know, I'm going to get a phone call, they hit us, you know what they're doing. They're smashing windows, they're writing graffiti, in some place, we haven't seen it in Massachusetts, they're not firebombing yet. But she lives there, and over this whole thing, she had a stroke. She was hospitalized. Because this has been, and I think you know the story of how it started. Pam, the owner, got pregnant as a young teenage girl by a black man. Everyone in her family abandoned her. Everybody. Okay? The community, you think about it, you go back 55 years ago, okay? The racism that existed in a small town like this, everybody abandoned her. And her wife, her daughter was at one of the meetings.
I know the Coleman.
You know the Colemans, right? Yeah, they're good people.
Yeah. So, if it's okay?
Yeah,
just because,
I didn't know that this was dialogue.
Well, it's on our agenda, so, you know, I wasn't going to open up any public speak about this. So during public speak is...
Oh, I thought this was public speak.
It is.
Oh, okay.
But what I'm saying is this particular topic, since it's with the attorney, but just before it goes on for too long, I just want to, you know, thank you for your input. You know, we do actually have some stuff that we were focusing on tonight that is not this.
Okay.
But I also just for clarification, I just wanted to put out there, you know, if I felt for a second, you know, I've been a city council here for 19 years, and I've seen a significant shift in Easthampton in those 19 years. If I thought for a second this was going to be targeting, you know, our friends and neighbors in some negative, nefarious way, this is not something that we'd be discussing. I just want to make sure that you understand what the ordinance actually does.
I understand.
Okay, so it wouldn't be targeting Bethlehem House at all, and in fact, they would be completely exempt if they were not, you know, doing anything that was deceptive.
Look, I was in healthcare for 34 years. I am against any kind of deceptive marketing, okay, in anything. And
that's good to hear, because the pharmaceutical companies are generally not.
I've never been in pharmaceutical.
As Bayer, you got OxyContin telling you so. Using that as an example is not exactly a.
It's not Bayer.
Fine. It was. I think Bayer they had one of the high potency opioids, which is not the point right now.
Okay.
But the point is that they were deceptively marketing, saying that it was not addictive and to prescribe as much as possible.
Look, the pharmaceutical industry, I'm not going to try to I've never been in the pharmaceutical industry. I was in biotechnology and telemedicine. Mm-hmm. Okay? So let's get away from the pharma.
But to put a cap on it, I guess, I feel like we're going to move on into, because we have vacant storefront ordinance to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's where we want to focus, because we have a short meeting tonight because of the sheriff's debate.
Yeah, no, but I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done.
Very good.
Okay.
So I appreciate you coming in and letting
Yeah,
us know your
no,
thoughts and.
I'm done. I'm not trying to create problems. I'm not
And-
yelling
and-
and screaming.
Oh no, of course not.
I just want you to think about what you're
Absolutely.
doing and the ramifications
Yeah,
of it.
and it sounds
I'm not
good.
here to just debate, like I went to the previous meetings and people want to get it. Abortion's legal in the state of Massachusetts. Case
Yeah.
closed, case ended.
Yeah.
There is no way in hell it's going to change legally, okay? No if, ands, or buts about it. So when people come in and get up there and they start talking about abortion, it just drives me crazy.
Well, it's not
you know?
necessarily relevant to.
Because it's not relevant to the discussion
Right.
and to the ordinance.
Right.
But this is relevant. And you can understand how people feel that they're being targeted. Because we're the only ones that deal with pregnant women
Right. In town. Yeah.
in town.
Yeah.
There's
I get
nobody
it.
else here.
Yeah. That's a good point. But anyway, all right. Well, hey, appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no
I hope you have a
problem.
wonderful
As
day.
always,
And-
I'll circle back with you if you remember.
Take care.
Yeah, and good luck with your knee.
Thanks.
And I guess while we're in public speak, before we get into, do you have something you wanted to add?
Well, that item's on the agenda. Is it okay if I?
It's
address it
on the
when we get
agenda,
there?
so I mean, so you can. I would say.
I don't
I would
want-
say our focus tonight is vacant storefront.
No, I just wanted to give you guys an update. So,
Fair enough.
I figured I'd wait my turn though.
I'd say probably now.
Okay.
Yeah, that way because we haven't really gotten into it yet.
So I'll just be quick. So just to be clear too, and I think you guys all get it. I have been clear since day one, and I've unfortunately had to do a million interviews about this thing, and I've been very clear that institution, the Bethlehem House, in no way resembles these other fake clinics.
Right.
Right. So I've been very clear about that. I think I appreciate what you said because I think you all get it. I know that this has been a very emotional topic for the council, but I think it's an important topic. Thank God abortion is legal here, but as we all know, as the number of states, has dwindled, these types of centers, which are real and do all the things that we're talking about them doing, and they're going to focus their energy, in Massachusetts. And I don't frankly think that the majority of them are going to be targeted. I mean, it's certainly not any more than we saw abortion center bombings, right? But so just to make it official, because it's on public record, I did get an email from the mayor about our requested solicitor, which was approved by the city council president, and I know you sent them some stuff as well, Mr. Chairman. And so basically, at least for now, I was told that the she's not going to allow any expenditure of city resources to investigate this ordinance. Now, I'm a little concerned about that, and that's
And so she sent that email to you,
to me and Omar.
not to me.
No, right, so I'll forward it to you. I'm just,
Okay.
yeah, right. And there were no conversations before or after, which I feel that, especially with emails around this topic, which I think has received a lot of attention, and we've had a lot of people interested in it, that it would have warranted a conversation either before or after, which is also why I requested of the mayor after I received that email, and I didn't get one. And so that was a few days ago. But what I'm worried about, and this, I don't want to stray too far from the topic of this particular item, but I'm worried about the precedent being set that any item before the legislator, which is the city council, that the chief executive, be it this one or another one in the future, doesn't like, that they'll just cut off our access to our legal review. And I think that that's something we need to look at.
I agree with that.
And so, I mean, look, this vacant storefront ordinance, let's say that a group of property owners in town got together and they made a big stink, and whoever was the mayor at the time, for whatever reason, said, oh, no, we can't have any of this, and it required solicitor review, and then they just say, nope, not allowed the solicitor to review it. I think it creates a problem with separation of powers. And it interferes with the process of this council. So I just want to put that out there, and I don't know where that goes from here. I mean, I think that the council ultimately if it was a concern about available money, which frankly I think we have plenty of it, you know, and I don't know how much this review would cost.
Yeah, I mean, I think let's keep it to this particular review because I think we are straying a little bit.
Yeah. So for this particular review, I mean, I would be open to the council being able to vote on you know, whether we can afford it or not, right? And so I just want to put all that out there.
Because the committee was under the impression that this was being reviewed by. That's what we've been telling people as they come to. Like last night, we had 30 people come. And we're like, we're not discussing this, it's with the solicitor for review. I mean, I'm sure they'll be happy that, it's been pulled back. But
not by the legislature.
But not by us who
right.
put it forward.
And so how are we supposed to inform ourselves as to the validity or viability? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go for it. Let's just putting myself in the queue.
Oh, I think that this deserves a vote. I think the language that was brought before this body initially already was tested in multiple states and in Somerville. I think that the questions raised were about definitions of what deceptive advertising is, and I could help make some. I have some other legal resources available that have been offered to me that I could pursue. And then, other options also would be that, Worcester, basically, they said their process has been that they took a vote to send it to their solicitor, and their solicitor's going to review it and send it back to them. That's another option, to wait for that, because I think that would show the strength of this in Massachusetts. But I would just like to say in terms of the process that I think this deserves a council vote. And if the council were to say, well, okay, now we don't have enough information, we're going to have to vote no, that's fine. But what I don't want to see happen is that it's just withdrawn because basically a tactic's been used to try to make us withdraw. At least that's in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to put that out there. And I also don't know, and Councilor Peak actually might have some information about this because I know he's kind of a charter and ordinance maven. But, in terms of kind of like the solicitors, it's the city solicitor, right? And I do think that, so I just wanted to put that all out there.
That's great. Tom, you had your hand up. So.
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, I'm really hoping that we can just figure this out. This has happened before where we're at an impasse and we talk and we figure things out. Mm-hmm. So I'm not personally at a point where I think we've abandoned that. But second of all, this has been a concern of mine for a long time. Let's stay on this topic, but just for the record, the way that the solicitor thing is set up has long been a concern of mine. But third, just as a thing, like, we have a rule that says that the solicitor should review ordinances, but it's our rule.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We can suspend it at any time.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So, I think that I generally am in support of solicitor review of things to help shield us from liability, but it is not a instant veto
right.
of things. So I'm not necessarily. I think that probably the prudent course of action at this point that I'd recommend is that we keep talking and see if we can come to some sort of understanding about this, because it feels sometimes that we are in a difficult situation where on one hand we're expected to legislate, and we're expected to legislate in a way that is very precise and in keeping with Massachusetts and federal law, despite none of us being lawyers. And on the other hand, we're not expected to have regular access to a lawyer. Yeah. I know at MMA people had talked for a long time about couldn't we have an MMA lawyer or an MMCA lawyer or something. I don't know. I don't know what the correct thing is, but I just want to say that there's something about this that it's not so much about any one decision, but just sort of the structure of the whole thing concerns me. Yeah. Ultimately, if the answer that we get is that the city absolutely refuses to review this, then I certainly would be interested in the opinions of outside legal experts. I'd certainly be, I want to do. What's funny is that sorry, I'm rambling, but what's funny about this whole situation, and I am sympathetic to some extent to the mayor's situation, and that we're a small city with a tight budget, and there's a lot of stuff going on, big construction projects, tons of takings. That's all costly legally. But at the same time, the reason it's in the solicitor's hands right now is because the solicitor stated that he had some concerns with the ordinance.
And he'd be happy to help us.
We actually, the initial finding of this committee was that a couple big cities with bigger budgets than us had already passed this, so we're good with it, right? And then it says, well, actually, I have a lot of thoughts. So I just want to know what those thoughts are. I don't need him to completely rewrite it, but I need to know, like, what are we even, if I'm going to reach out to, there's a lot of people who care deeply about this subject. Some of them have law degrees. If we're reaching outside in order to try and save the city some money, what are the things that we need to be, certainly we heard some stuff about ambiguity of certain terms and whatever, and I guess that's worth talking about. But I just feel like the reason this is here is because there was this suggestion that we bring it into this process. So for then that process to become blocked is, I just feel like I wish I had a better understanding of what is actually asked. Like, are we supposed to be running everything by the lawyer, or are we or not? Like, because we have to do our job somehow.
Confusing.
Yeah, I don't feel like I've been getting a consistent feedback from.
Well, and generally the mayor has the power to veto, and generally if the mayor is not interested in signing something into law, then they veto it. They don't generally stop the process before it's been legally vetted. So that's just a little bit out of step for me, as far as like historically. So I'm gonna, and the fact that I wasn't included on that email as the chair is a little concerning as well. So I'll have to take that up with as we move forward. But I think I agree that this is something that with some discussion we should be able to vet through, and hopefully we'll get to a place where we can find something that works. Councilor Riley?
Because I'm still very new to this, so is the position of the solicitor a part of the mayor's cabinet, or is that?
It's like a consultant, outside consultant.
Okay.
We hire them as a city
and
for all of our legal purposes,
and the
not just the
mayor
executive
has
purposes.
sole discretion
To
over
spend the money is the issue.
Okay.
We don't really have,
right.
in general, the city council doesn't have the discretion to spend money, which puts us in a bit of a tight spot.
Right.
So the solicitor is not an employee of Easthampton.
He has his own legal practice.
Okay.
With some partners.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a little bit, I think in big cities, what they often do is that like the council has their their lawyers on retainer, and the mayor has their lawyers on retainer, and in Springfield they like go to the state Supreme Court periodically. Like, no offense to Springfield. I'm just saying like that.
They're bigger than us. Councilor Zara, and then we'll
just quickly. Yeah, so I just want to echo what you said, Chairman Derby, is that my understanding in terms of the mechanisms available to our city government is that if the chief executive disagrees with a decision of the legislature, that they can just veto it. And I would think that is more appropriate pathway. And then to Councilor Peak's point, one of the biggest reasons that this is with the solicitor is because there's been some concerns about legal action, and they need to tell us if this is something they can defend. And if we go into this blindly, and I can't predict the will of the council, but if for whatever reason there was political will to just pass this without solicitor review, and then they have to defend the lawsuit, and I would want them to know if they said I can't defend this. That would potentially change my mind, or it makes it complicated for me.
Yeah.
And I understand how complex this is and how high energy your thing is. And I won't apologize for bringing it forward, but I do acknowledge that this is more weighty than a lot of the other things we typically consider. So I'll copy you in that email.
Great.
And I just wanted to make sure I updated you guys.
That's good. It's good to
figure out. So
because as people come in, we want to be able to give them an update on where we're at. So
so I guess the question is, what do you want me to do next? I mean, I have opportunities to reach. There's other people I can reach out to. I actually have a call with a Worcester counselor next week Do you want to just keep it on
Just
on
you
hold
do your
until I
thing
get
on
you
your end, and
information?
I'm gonna connect with Omar when he's feeling better and the mayor and see what I can find out. So,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, all right, thanks for the update.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay,
Thanks,
so
listen.
vacant storefront ordinance. And now I was really hoping EDIC would come. I was really hoping the building commissioner would come. So, but the building commissioner taking your daughter to college, I guess. So, but got some feedback. So, and I did send you guys. It was a screenshot. I couldn't figure out
Yeah.
how to just like send the one email. So, is it okay if I just read this? And
Yeah,
we'll
please,
just talk
because
about what.
I couldn't read it.
Okay, okay. So, I have a couple questions or thoughts on this ordinance. This is from BJ Church. The monies raised by the fees set forth in the ordinance will be used to provide an online registry of vacant properties in Easthampton that will be updated as needed to reflect current vacancies, as well as the enforcement of the provisions set forth herein. So that's from the ordinance. The question was, who will develop the registry, and would it not need to be completed to show all owner's name, property street number, property type, square footage, property owner, and financial institution in possession, mailing and email address of the current contact number? Seems that we would need this information on registry so property owner or lessee can sign and fill out status of property. So, if we go into the ordinance, because that makes sense. Now, Tom, I'm going to ask you, since I'm going to designate you my tech guy for this meeting.
All right.
We could just make an Excel spreadsheet that had those things as headers that could literally be updated by the building commissioner easily, like within
Yeah.
seconds.
I mean, we're plugged into the Google Suite, so
Google
it
Suite,
could
so
just
we
be
could do sheets.
a cloud-based Google Sheet.
That could probably have an embedded piece in the website, so if someone wanted to see what properties were vacant, they could get that information.
Yeah.
We could probably even, like, the financial institution and like the specific address of the property owner, not necessarily the property, could probably be grayed out or something, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the only issue that you could potentially come into is, this. I don't think this would be an issue, but maybe might be an issue.
Okay.
Is, would the building commissioner or somebody on their staff, which I don't believe they have.
I don't know if they have it. They might have a secretary.
Or somebody else in the city who is
designated to do that.
to help out with this. Would they have all that information on hand?
Right.
If you're talking about a truly derelict property and the person's...
So that, and almost, it seems like that would be something that the assessor would have.
Yeah, that's my thought, is that the assessor would likely have most of that information, but I don't know that the assessor necessarily, because like mortgages, for instance, are recorded at the Hampshire County Registry of Deeds. And so they wouldn't necessarily, the assessor, in order to determine the home value, wouldn't necessarily need to know about the financial institution or
Right.
the contact information of the property owner or anything
Right.
like that.
Right.
That would probably have to be entered by the property owner. And
Yeah.
if they do that, then great. If they're uncooperative, it's just going to be. But I
It's
guess
going to be a pain. And,
if they're uncooperative,
then they're going to have to pay the fee anyway.
well, and
The
if
fine.
they're uncooperative, then probably they're not looking to rent it out. So
Okay.
you're right. So it actually probably could be as simple as like a little form and
Right, it would be a form that as these things come online, obviously the property owner is going to get a letter saying
Yeah.
your property needs to be registered because we've determined it's vacant and we need this information from you, and maybe even have a web link where they could just enter it right into...
Yeah, you could say like either call this number or
Right.
just go to this website and fill out this form.
Right.
And those sorts of fillable forms are pretty accessible and easy to program.
Yeah, okay, so that's good. I mean, so, I think that question is kind of like, all right, who's going to do this? And what I was thinking is that it's probably easy enough that it could be developed relatively quickly and then just be brought under the building commissioner just so they have a link so they can have access to it. So it wouldn't necessarily be like a lot of extra work for them to have to build this new thing and maintain it, because we could probably within our IT department have that like done in-house pretty quickly.
I would think so.
Okay.
I do things like that for work, and
And it's
they're
pretty-
not
yeah.
difficult.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even though you're my tech guy, I've done it too. Okay, and so, I think that is gonna be, and again, in ordinances, oftentimes we don't spell out the specific form that the person's gonna fill out. We don't, but we just say, in general, here's what you need to provide, and here's who's responsible for it, and they kind of are gonna have the purview to do what they feel is necessary to get that done. Right? And so I think that's kind of, while we can provide guidance, within the letter of the ordinance, we can say, hey, we want this information, we want the property owner's name, the street number, all this stuff, whatever the building commissioner thinks is should be required. I think that's great, but I don't think we necessarily need to spell it out. Right? Is that?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with
Okay, and so here's what we said in the ordinance. So this is under registration. Prior to or not more than 90 days after a unit or any portion of a property becomes vacant, as defined herein, the owners must register the vacancy with the city on its website. So maybe we should say with the city via the website or a telephone conversation with, I don't know if we necessarily, but we specifically say just website there.
Okay, so
It does take away some.
you could just say with the city.
With the city.
And then that would allow them to either drop in or call,
Right.
but certainly this isn't the sort of thing that should require like a meeting or appointment with
No,
anybody.
no, I don't think so
If you,
either.
but if you're someone who doesn't really do computers, then sure.
Right, that could be, so there could be a phone call to the city clerk who's like, oh, you need to just talk to this person, right? Leave a message or, okay, so I'm gonna continue. All registrations must state the owner's name, property street number, storefront status, vacant, leased, or sold to another owner, property type, industrial, office, retail, restaurant, square footage, property owner or financial institution in possession, mailing address, email address, telephone number, and phone type. Property manager as applicable, 24-hour primary and secondary telephone number, and I feel like maybe this should be a paragraph right here. Sorry, I'm gonna. None of the required addresses shall be a post office box. This registration must state if the property is vacant at the time of filing. Once the building is no longer vacant or is sold, the owner must provide proof of sale or written notice and proof of lawful occupancy to the city, pursuant to the process outlined by such departments. And so that last piece was what I was talking about. A process outlined by the departments that are going to be responsible.
Yeah.
So it gives them that kind of, and it's interesting because I'm pretty sure everything that the building commissioner mentioned there is in there. So that's good. That's a good thing. All right. Do you guys have any questions on that particular?
Well, so is BJ specifically asking us what it should look like on our end, or
I think
or are they asking to put it into the ordinance?
I think they're asking just who will develop the registry,
Oh, okay.
and would it not need to be completed to show the owner's name, property street number, property type, square footage.
Right, but it could just be a spreadsheet.
Yeah. It could just be a spreadsheet, exactly. Any other thoughts on this?
I saw that.
Yeah.
I just had a statement that I actually appreciate the fact that, while we should be collaborative, sometimes collaboration is just notification. I think that, basically tasking the building inspector with, developing, that's basically saying that they're in charge, and then you have to develop something, I think is fair enough notification. I mean, unless, none of that sounds egregious, and it seems completely within their role.
Well, and not to interrupt, but the number of vacant properties is low enough that it's not, I would say it's not an arduous task.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I just want to, if I may ask a question.
Yeah.
Because I haven't tuned into a lot of these. So how are you defining vacancy? You have a.
I do. We have a vacancy is. So that brings us up to vacancy definitions. Legally occupied. So legally occupied is occupied in accordance with provisions of the Massachusetts Building Code. And vacant building in any unoccupied street-facing, non-residential, commercial, or industrial real property, which A, is not legally occupied, is abandoned, or is not used for a period of at least 90 consecutive days or longer by occupants having custody or legal right of entry to such property, or does not have a current and valid business certificate with the City of Easthampton. B, which is intentionally occupied by persons with legal right of entry, but exhibits, in the opinion of the building commissioner, dilapidated walls, roof, or doors, which fail to prevent the entry of a trespasser for a period of more than 7 days, and is located within the City of Easthampton's designated downtown business district. So that is vacant. So basically, it attacks it from two fronts. So someone who just is letting a building sit and it's not occupied, or someone who has let a building become dilapidated and is potentially a hazard for people getting in and setting a fire or whatnot. So it would be a little bit a more extreme version of a vacant building, kind of like what we got over here.
Yeah. May I ask one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Or a recommendation, if this passes, I don't know if there is any sort of list of all the commercial property owners in downtown business, but you might want to send them all a letter.
Oh, no, they have, this came from the EDIC.
Yeah.
And they did, they're kind of mad at us right now because we've been so busy with other things, whatever. But they worked on this for like a year, and they coordinated with a lot of the business owners, sent letters, asked for feedback, let them know what they were doing. And they did that to everybody in downtown business.
Oh, I just need to notify them about the existence of the ordinance. So
right.
They know what to do.
So they know that it's potentially on coming down the line because they've already been interviewed.
Okay.
So they have been, but there would be.
But that went into effect.
Yeah.
That's what the health department did with the plastics.
Yeah.
Because they don't know. That's the only.
No, of course, yeah.
And then any subsequent new occupant. So sorry.
Yep. Council Pete.
I don't want to get too far into this, and we don't need to make a decision on this today.
Yeah.
But one thought that I had just thinking through a lot of this, particularly given that our building commissioner department is one person who's often out in the field.
Yeah.
Is there any value in potentially shifting some of the office capacity, enforcement part of this in terms of actually maintaining the registry to maybe the city clerk's office?
It's possible.
I'm just wondering if they might have more of the capacity than a single person who spends a good deal of their time away from a computer.
That's actually a really good point, because one of the reasons why that is a good point is because the city clerk is responsible for all of the business certificates in the city.
So would actually be the first person to notice or something.
Yeah. So that actually, obviously, we want to talk to Barbara. I know I can hear Barbara's voice in my head right now.
She's not get crazy about it, but she'd do a great job.
But I'll talk to Mary Ann. Because Barbara's on vacation. I'll talk to Mary Ann, and Mary Ann, I think, would be sound. She. Yeah. So I think that's a good point, though. It is a point well taken. Yeah. Go for it. Yeah, Councilor.
You could always just include, a building inspector or their designee, and they could.
Yeah, and they could
whoever.
designate the city clerk. I think it would be good to check in with the clerk. But, okay. So, Section 3, Registration A. So, I'm going to read that. So, Section 3, Registration A. Prior to or not more than 90 days after a unit or any portion of a property becomes vacant, as defined herein, the owner must register the vacancy with the city. All registrations must state the owner's name, property street number, storefront status. I already read this, I guess. Telephone number plus 24-hour primary, secondary telephone number. None of this shall be a post office box. So what they asked was, what's the process of notifying the property owner or lessee of the requirement to register? Who will be responsible for updating registry and sending notifications? So I think in the beginning, anybody that is found to have a vacant building, it will just be outreach, sending them a letter. We think that your building's vacant, are we right? Mm-hmm. And that could come from the commissioner, that could come from the city clerk. And then and it sounds like potentially if we could get the clerk to buy into this, since it's so closely related to business certificates, they could just upgrade the registry as that information comes in. So I think that is something we've kind of already talked about. So section 3, registration B. The city, through its agent, may exempt a property owner from the provisions of this ordinance upon the presentation of evidence in such form as may be convincing to them that the failure to use or occupy a building for a period in excess of 90 days does not violate the purpose or intent of this ordinance. And so the question here is, who will determine once documentation is submitted that a property has shown evidence that they may be exempt? And that would be the enforcement agent, so that would be the building commissioner. And so just since, Brad, since you're new to this, and Owen, since you haven't really been involved with this, basically what that would be is if, for example, Coco was vacant, and they had invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into making a state-of-the-art kitchen. They don't want to just lease it or rent it to somebody who doesn't need that.
Mm-hmm.
So they need a specific type of business to come in. They can say, listen, we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars at the kitchen. We need a restaurant to come in. We're waiting for the right restaurant to come in. And the building commissioner will be like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so you can be exempt while you're looking for, and you're actively trying to find somebody.
Right.
You're not just letting it rot.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the big things. If you're actively trying to lease it, then you're okay. You just have to pay the $100 registration.
Right.
You don't have to pay the subsequent kind of like, oh, you're not doing anything, so that's where the kind of the stick comes in as opposed to the carrot.
Right.
Right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, because like opposed to a place like just a couple of doors down, the Vanam Eye Care.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they technically are still open. They're hardly ever there, but
Right.
when you go inside, there isn't anything about that space that specifically needs. It's not an optometry office.
Right,
It's just like a drop-in.
Like it could be, you could literally
It could be
put
a retail store.
any number of stores in there.
Right. Okay.
So that
Yeah.
that is one thing. Yep.
Yeah. So that makes that's a good differentiation.
Yep. Okay, so, and this is the last piece of feedback we were able to get from the building commissioner, and it's under inspections. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so inspections. Section 6, building commissioner, police chief, fire chief, and the health director, or their designees, shall have the authority to periodically inspect the exterior and interior of any building subject to this ordinance for compliance, as authorized under the terms of registration form filled with the city. The building commissioner shall have the discretionary authority to disconnect utilities immediately if a potential hazard that may be dangerous to life and limb is present. So, the building commissioner said the state adopted building code has the authority over structures, so I'm not sure the fire or police should be doing those inspections.
Fair enough.
And I think there are some circumstances where the fire chief can do like safety inspections.
Yeah.
So I think that's one before I take them out, as far as, because I feel like the more people we have the capability to do, like, is this safe? So if you have a police officer who goes down the street and finds a broken plate glass window, and there's, and they're like, oh, it's all jagged in the window, like, this seems really unsafe, we want them to be able to do a initial inspection saying this is not a safe thing, and we need to move forward with something. So vacant properties are subject to quarterly inspections to ensure the property continues to meet applicable building codes required for leasing. The building commissioner may levy a fee for this inspection. So, so the only thing you missed, Tom, was talking about who's going to determine that the documentation that's submitted for a property has shown evidence that they're exempt. And so we, if you remember, our exemptions were like, if they're actively trying to lease it, they're actively trying to rent it, they have a specialized space that they can't just like give to anybody. Those were some of the reasons for inspection or exemption.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, so that's really all the feedback we got from the building commissioner.
Okay.
That's not a ton. Now, I will say this. I would love to, now that Brad is here, just to review the annual registration fee, failure to pay, and the waiver.
Okay.
So I'm going to go through this just one more time.
Sure.
If that's okay, because we have some time. We have just a few minutes. The annual registration fee of $500 for the first year of vacancy is due at the time of registration of the vacant property. The fee of $750 will be assessed to the second year the property is vacant. The fee of $1,000 will be due the third year and subsequent years the property is vacant now. So originally the EDIC put in $100 flat every year. So what we did though is we went and we have a spreadsheet from cities all over the Commonwealth that have enacted this, and almost all of them have a progressive fee scale that started at $500.
Okay.
We figured if you're a property owner,
$500 is
probably
Yeah, there's no incentive.
if it was 100, like why would you even?
Yeah.
Like who cares?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? So the property owner will be invoiced on an annual basis until the property is leased or sold. The annual registration fee shall be set by the City Council pursuant to MGL Chapter 40, Section 22F. Failure to register a vacant property shall be subject to a $100 per day fine. Such fee and any fees issued for violations of this ordinance shall constitute a municipal charges lien on the property to be collected in accordance with MGL Chapter 40, Section 58. Failure to pay the annual registration fee shall be a violation of this ordinance, and the full fee shall be deemed an assessment resulting from a violation of this ordinance. Such fee and any fines issued for violations of this ordinance shall constitute a municipal charge lien on the property to be collected in accordance with MGL Chapter 40, Section 58. Owners may apply for a waiver of the annual registration fee at the time of registration of a vacant property and upon receipt of annual registration fee invoices each year thereafter, requesting waiver of some or the entire fee on grounds of demonstrable financial hardship or by agreeing in writing to display public art as defined herein from the term of the vacancy. Waivers requested on the basis of financial hardship are subject to a 30-day review period. If a waiver based on financial hardship is granted, it will be reevaluated on an annual basis until property is leased or sold. If a waiver of the registration fee based on financial hardship is denied, the registration fee is due within 30 days of the decision. Waivers for public art display will be granted only as sufficient public viewing is available, appropriate to the location for display, and the city artist owner agree to terms of exhibition as set forth by the city planner or their designee. The proposed public art display is subject to review and approval by the ECA. So that's all new stuff that we have changed since the EDIC.
Okay.
A lot of that is relatively new.
So this is if somebody has a property that is vacant, they could theoretically collaborate with artists.
Yep.
Okay.
And they could, while they're trying to lease it, they could have a public art display, which would then waive their fees.
Okay. All right.
Because it's basically seemed as a public, what's the opposite of a nuisance?
good.
Public good. But it's too easy, Tom.
Amenity.
Amenity, there you go. That's bad. That's good. And let me just see. Okay. So what I would like to do is I'm gonna send this over to the EDIC folks that weren't able to come tonight, and just get some feedback from them. I'm going to invite the building commissioner one more time. I'd love to meet them and to have them sit down with us and discuss this. And then, I think if after that, so one more meeting on this, we should be able to get to a place where we can initiate with the planning board because as is an ordinance, kind of a zoning.
Is it?
Well, I don't know if it's
It's
zoning.
like a general ordinance. Sorry.
I guess it is kind of a general ordinance, but it's just, I'm gonna check because I feel,
I'm interested what Jeff and Jesse's thoughts on this
yeah,
are.
yeah.
I don't want, like, if
That's why I feel like.
if Jesse felt really strongly like we should take a look at this, then I'd be fine doing that. But
Yes.
if he's like, he's a lawyer, so.
Yeah. So that's, yeah. I think that's, I'll send it to them just, even if we don't technically need to, and sometimes we have worked in conjunction with the planning board and things like this when we didn't necessarily have to.
Yeah.
Just because it gives us a little bit broader perspective, and this might be one of those things where we want more broad community input. So I'll check in with Jeff and Jesse as well. But how do you guys feel so far? You guys feel like do you have any comments, any ideas to put into the draft before we send it out for other people to kind of critique?
I actually feel better about this than I did when last we discussed it.
Okay.
I think just there's some stuff that maybe wasn't clicking that
Okay.
now I'm like, okay, that's cool. I do think we should potentially explore whether there might be things that it would be better for the clerk's office to handle, just if it's like an office administrative task.
Yeah.
It might not be a good thing to hand off
To
to
a
a
one-person
single
department.
employee who's out in the field for the majority of the day.
And they're slammed.
Yes, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
And probably will continue to be.
Yeah.
That's just my one thought is, like, this isn't a ton of properties. I don't think it would
No.
be a huge lift, but I want to make sure that it's something that's done in like an orderly and consistent way, and that people are, can receive like a quick response. And
Yeah.
and I just wonder if maybe, and especially because of the fact that the business certificates are
Are city
already
clerk.
housed in the clerk's office.
Yep.
I'm wondering if this would not make sense to be.
And I think Barbara does a lot of the updating of the website too.
Yeah, I mean, these are all things that they typically do
Yeah.
regularly, getting information in, updating databases.
Yeah.
So,
So that's good. That'll be a discussion.
Yeah,
That'll be a
and
discussion.
I know that nobody likes
Adding.
getting extra work,
Yeah.
but the
Hey.
clerk's office are our employees.
I mean, this also comes with a fee structure that can support.
that's true.
yeah.
So I think that is, what we said is the fees from this are meant to specifically support the administration of it. So I think that's going to be an important point, that any fees we get will
Right.
go back to building commissioner and the administrator of the database.
Right.
So okay, great,
Yeah,
awesome.
sounds good.
So I think as far as next meeting, you guys want to look at a date, and then you have 5 minutes to make your way upstairs.
Okay, 5 minutes. Do we want to try like, I don't know, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
3
So
weeks?
where are we at right now? So we're at the 4th. So in 2 weeks, that's going to be like the 17th, 16th, 17th, or 18th. Let me just see what I have here. I have something on my. Do you want to do the 18th? Does Thursday work for you guys?
Yeah, Thursday generally works pretty well.
Okay, let's do. Oh, let's see.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Yep.
that's okay.
Thursday the 18th.
Yeah.
Okay. That way we can look. I did send you. I shared with you guys the flag. I built it into the existing sign ordinance. So just take a look at that. We can discuss it next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And same time, 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Yeah. Oh.
So actually, just to follow up on the flag thing too, I'll forward you that as well, because I'm surprised you might not have gotten it. I was confused about that because I also got an email, because I reached out to the mayor and said I'm happy to help with this because I've been responsible for a few of the flags that have flown here.
Yeah.
And I got an email back from her saying something like, her executive order is okay as it is and nothing needs to be done and she's going to wait. But I mean,
and then I talked to her after that, and I was
Yeah.
like, "We're kind of already working on it." So
Well, that's why-
I think
yeah.
there's just some crossed wires that.
Well,
need to
right,
be
and
done.
again, like the only reason I was involved is because I just offered to help out and to help you guys. And,
Yeah.
so I maybe just check in with her because she said something about waiting for other cities to work on this because of the sensitivity. I don't know.
Okay.
That's. I mean, like I said, I'm at a meeting about something completely different.
Yeah, so I just
Yeah.
I can forward you that email or
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just want to
Yeah, no, that'd be good.
forward that to you.
I mean, it's, what I did was super simple anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, we at least have a start on it. I mean, it's in committee.
Right,
So-
no, I know that. That's why I was surprised that there wasn't a request to remove it because of that
Yeah.
statement. I mean, my understanding of this topic is that the problem that Boston ran into is that basically they made the flagpole a public display. So they had a separate committee that basically was like received applications to put things on the flagpole. That's where they ran into a free speech issue because
Right.
it was private. It became private speech, and so if the city runs the flagpoles, i.e., they're only linked to city-related
Yeah.
things, then the city can do whatever they want.
Right.
And that was my understanding of the Supreme Court decision, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Okay.
And so that was, I reached out to the mayor, just transparency, I reached out to talk to her about that. I wasn't sure if I came out with a clear understanding after that.
Right.
But then I got this email, which I'll forward to you.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, so we have our next meeting set. I'm happy to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we are done, gentlemen. We'll see you next time.
All right, thank